Are the Colorado Rapids rebranding? The NWSL look like they're pushing forward with their high impact player plan, and we put a special holiday spotlight on our channel members. That and more on this Christmas Eve edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, the show where we dot the map of the American soccer landscape. My name is Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, radio soccer guy Jason Davis. How you feeling? Hopefully everyone's doing well. I see everyone pouring into this Christmas edition live show. What's happening, Jason?
I'm good. I'm ready for this show. I'm ready to celebrate the holiday. I want to shout out our ultras. They're going to get a spotlight, some of them today, because we made this specifically about them. But we got Jeff here. Good morning. Merry Christmas from Jeff. This is our man in North Carolina with Mountain to Sea, Zach. We've got a homeless shoe is here. Ho, ho, ho. The current PLS has got to go. That's a very American soccer way to view the spirit of Christmas, I guess. John Stark is saying good morning. So shout out to all of you guys, all of you ultras. Thank you very much for supporting Morning Kickaround as we get ready to celebrate the holiday season. Obviously, head to the end of the calendar year with 2026 like looming, like one of those giant spaceships in like one of those movies. What was the White House blows up and it's our Independence Day. Isn't it called Independence Day? Yeah, the big giant ship is looming. That's 2026.
No doubt, looming large over our heads. Shout out to our brand new MK Ultras this week. We got Scred, Dave Townsend, and Emmett. So big cheers to you and tip of the hat. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Great community here, and we're going to put a big spotlight of it. Pretty much the back half of the show is going to be focused and spotlighting our MK Ultras. And I love the community we got going. It's, dotting the map of the North American soccer landscape and some folks overseas as well. But I got to tip my hat to the local community I have in here. For anyone here in my local area that's in my Tuesday night group, had an amazing Tuesday night pickup. Christmas party after was a great group of guys. Tip of the hat to anyone from my Tuesday night. The group of Russians, my Russian Tuesday night group, had a great Christmas party last night. And tip of the hat to any of those guys tuning in early this morning.
Party with Russians, Rob? That's what you do? Wow.
Yeah, at least once a year. Usually at the end of the summer and then at Christmas. We go all out. And then on the field, the gals that take the other field at the same time slot at the facility, it's an over 50 women's group. And they might even go harder than my Russian friends. They got fireball and all sorts of fun stuff. So, yeah, we went hard at the soccer facility last night.
Fireball came up on the radio show yesterday. Eric Ronaldo was talking about Fireball. I didn't realize adult human beings were into Fireball. That's something I've learned this holiday season.
Maybe it's a U shape of appeal because, like I said, the group drinking it was in the older category. So maybe it starts, your young drinking age, and then it curls back around in your latter career. But either way, we're gonna put a focus spotlight on our MK Ultras. But we got a few long balls to kick first. Shall we do that?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. Christmas Eve's long balls here on Morning Kickaround. To the MLS here on Long Balls, the Colorado Rapids stalwart out in the Western Conference of Major League Soccer. On Monday, the club launched the One Club, One Legacy fan survey to gather information from the Rapids community and Greater Denver about the Rapids branding, amongst other topics. And this is leading people to believe or wonder, are the Colorado Rapids going to rebrand?
Yeah, this was the email that went out. I saw some Rapid fans that I follow on Blue Sky saying, no, thank you. I don't know what you're doing here, but we don't like it. I think there is a way to view this, Rob, and it's certainly a negative view that this is about the club being nervous that a certain NWSL team that really that is making some waves, and I believe just got final approval to build their stadium in Denver, maybe casting some shadow over the Rapids and causing some fear in the Rapids organization about what the soccer scene might look like on the front range of the Rocky Mountains coming up. I mean, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
What does the one horse in town look like when it's nervous? Because Colorado has been a one horse town as far as Major League Soccer and professional soccer goes. Like you said, cross town or in town, is it the Colorado Summit or is it the Denver Summit?
Denver Summit FC is what they decided to go with there, and it made some waves. Obviously, lots of money behind that. That's the thing about NWSL. It's starting to get to that place where like the money looks impressive, which then gets a lot of attention. And again, they've gotten approval to build a stadium in Denver, which is something obviously the Rapids do not have. They got a stadium out in Commerce City, Colorado. I don't know if you know anything about the geography of Denver, Rob, but Commerce City is not Denver. It is absolutely a far-flung suburban kind of place. And if you cannot tell by the name Commerce City, it's not necessarily the prettiest place to be.
It's Denver, not Fun City. It's Commerce City. It's not Fun City.
Yeah, I mean, in Denver, for people who know, you've got the town. The town is actually on the plains, right? It's on the plains of Colorado. The city of Denver is on the plains, and then you creep closer you get to the foothills, and then you get to the mountains, and the mountains are gorgeous, and they're in the backdrop. But it's really just kind of very flat. My mom was born in the eastern part of Colorado. There ain't nothing out there, and Commerce City kind of fits that vibe. So this is not, again, this seems like a club that is kind of not taking for granted their place in Colorado soccer. I don't know that that's necessarily the way to look at it, but it doesn't feel like this has been a priority for the Kroenke family, which owns the club. And now suddenly they're interested in maybe rebranding. Rebranding is cheap heat. Let's be clear.
Oh, yeah.
Rebranding is super cheap heat. And we even have potentially, and I grabbed this from Wes Burdine on Blue Sky, potentially some ideas as to what name they might go with. Now, that 96, that obviously references the year the club was founded as one of the original MLS teams. And they are hitting their 30th year, right? Or 30 years in 2026, even though I think we've already played the 30th season. They're identifying 2026 as their 30th anniversary. So maybe this is wrapped up in that. This is an excuse to do it, right? Now, yeah. I also want to – it's interesting to look at the dates, though. Again, Wes Burdine posted this on Blue Sky. I did not source this myself. But look at the dates on these trademark filings. It has been a minute. It's been a year since they filed these, basically. Mile High SC is right there. Man, look, I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Again, I told you, my mom was born in Colorado. My parents are both from Colorado. My grandparents were from Colorado. I visited a lot when I was a kid. I love the place. I don't think Mile High SC is a great name for a soccer team, Rob. I just don't.
So when I put the ideation to the Discord, we got a couple replies of suggestions for rebrands. We had a quick shout for Rocky Mountain Rangers, the High Country Rangers, and then producer Jenny suggested Rocky Mountain High.
Well, I did mention this in the pre-show meeting. Something that I remember this coming up when the Colorado Avalanche moved from Quebec to Denver.
Yeah.
And maybe it came up when the Rapids were starting as well in 96. I don't recall. Obviously different ownership back then. I think the Rapids were I think they were one of the teams owned by whoever owns the Galaxy. Who owns the Galaxy, Rob? Anschutz. I think Anschutz maybe owned the Rapids in the early days. I don't remember. The bottom line is Kroenke owns the Rapids now. And the Kroenke family is fully invested in Arsenal Football Club of London, England. There is I think it's decommissioned. Somebody will have to catch me up on the history of this. I'm not paying attention to my military outposts. But there was a place called the Rocky Mountain Arsenal, right? That was a location, a storage facility for weaponry that's been in Denver for a very long time, or been in Colorado for a very long time. And I think there was a discussion about whether the Colorado Avalanche should be called something like the Rocky Mountain Arsenal or Arsenal involved. And I don't know. I mean, I see Mile High SC, so it's not obvious that they're heading in an Arsenal-ish direction. But would it be good, bad, if suddenly the Rapids were called something to do with Arsenal?
It's like the MK Ultras. There's a double meaning there, but it doesn't have to be that thing, right? It could be adjacent. And one thing that's kind of mixed up, confusing, you're talking about Kroenke. You're saying if they go with this Mile High SC, it'd be wild to have the soccer team nicknamed somewhat adjacent to the NFL team, while he also owns a different NFL team in the Rams. That's a whole mix of cross-mogenation there.
Well, he also owns the Nuggets and the Avalanche. So that's Kroenke as well, the family anyway. I love French Hornet saying that they tried to change the name to Colorado Arsenal and the fans had a fit. I don't remember that specifically. But then there's also this. Let me throw this in here real quick because this is kind of related. Claiming the whole state in your name is lame. New England is extra lame. All right. This is from Scred Red. Now, I will say when it comes to Colorado, it's because, that it's the whole state. Like it's an identity thing that's like we're going to claim the region. Obviously, it's the Denver Broncos. It's the Denver Nuggets. Why they went with Colorado Avalanche and not Denver Avalanche, I don't know. And obviously here you have Colorado Rapids and not Denver Rapids. Again, I don't know. I've never thought of it as overly lame, but maybe it is. Utah Jazz, not Salt Lake City Jazz. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, just claiming something as yours is the American way. Just claim that whole. And maybe they didn't have a lot of belief in the economic development of Colorado, that there might be other cities that would develop and be large enough to deserve a major league sports team. Anyway, but aside from that, our guy Matt Pollard at the Burgundy Wave, he covers the team in depth, and he took this survey, and he told me, I asked him about this whole deal, and he thinks that the survey was proposed and shaped in a way that he felt that the questions were targeted, were made in a way to target to get the answers to the questions that they wanted. And he believed that a refresh is more likely than a full-on rebrand. He was saying it's more likely that they do a refresh similar to Columbus or Seattle, like updating, or maybe even doing a throwback to previous iterations rather than a full-on rebrand.
Well, let me throw this back up on the stage then, because the issue here, so you can see the various badges that the club has used. And it's not like they've had one that, and then the next one was some sort of similar to the previous. I mean, that original Rapids logo, it's very small on the screen right now, but a lot of you can recognize it from sight. And they were wearing a lot of green back then. That one is very 90s, it feels very minor league sports. That first one with the actual Rapids Waters sort of under the name. That second one is bad, I think is the word. The green one with the ball in the center. I don't recall. I guess this is an alternative, the C with the ball in the middle. And of course, the C is on the flag of Colorado, which is the reference there. The current badge is inoffensive, but it's not real sexy. It's not something I'm like, oh, that's a great badge. It's just there. It's nothing, something. It's not something I would want to hold on to forever. And so maybe a rebrand or maybe a refresh, like you said, is the way to go.
Yeah, and it's wild. You said this is cheap heat, and you're talking about a team that's 30 years old and has already gone through 3 or 4 looks already. So every few years, they're looking for that cheap heat and getting into the conversation.
They have one idea. They have one idea in Colorado. That's just to change the badge every now and then. That's our idea. Wait, are we going to get a good soccer team on the? I know they have an MLS Cup, but they won that MLS Cup playing the ugliest soccer possible under Gary Smith. So I think people choose not to remember it. But there you go.
Additional note from Matt Pollard at the Burgundy Wave. He said most fans aren't too bothered by this questioning of a refresh or rebrand. But he said fans are mostly mad that the club is spending any time or money on this issue rather than improving the fan experience, i.e. Replacing the scoreboard or improving the team. So understandable frustration there that, spinning the wheels talking about rebranding when there's apparently a lot more to take on there in Denver or the Denver area. One last question. Is Commerce City, is that where the airport is?
No, the airport is very far from
Denver. Because when I flew in there, the one time I took a trip into Denver, I was like all excited for mountains. And then when you fly in, you're very far away from the mountains when you fly to Denver.
Yeah, they decided to build their new airport very far away from the city. So yeah, you don't get any real mountain vibes out. That's what I mean. It's very flat out there. There ain't nothing except an occasional road and maybe some sort of industrial site. But yeah, it's all plains and prairies in eastern Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know what the highway name is called, but one of the most unique drives of my lifetime is driving from Denver to Boulder. And the highway's literally, when you're going north, the left side of your view is all like mountains and the foothills at the beginning of the Rocky Mountains. And then to the right is just completely flat. And the highway seemingly chops the horizon in half. Pretty incredible stuff out there. But moving on to our second long ball topic of the morning, the NWSL has gone ahead and pushed through the high impact player mechanism, even though the players union has formally objected.
Yeah, so that's the second part of this. Here's the statement from the league that talks about how each club may exceed the league's established salary cap by up to $1 million for high impact players. This threshold will grow year over year. It identifies there are this does not include the criteria for who qualifies for a high impact player spot, Rob, and that's really the question here for a lot of people is how are you applying? Like, what is it that makes a player a high impact player? Because if you compare this to, say, the designated player rule, which is a very easy comparison to make, what you think, oh, well, then the club will decide who they think is the player they want to spend their money on. And you just say, oh, the clubs are going to have an idea of what kind of player they want to pay over the budget. And that will be the end of it. That will be how you determine how this money is spent. That is not what's going to happen here. And again, the debate is over these criteria. Players on the Sports Pro Media top 150 most marketable athletes within 1 year prior to. Go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, no, like we saw how weird that lists can be, especially in the women's game. You can, like, we've had times where like an entire team of Euro players has been included in total, like, wasn't there a list where Naomi Girma didn't hit one of the top 100 lists, and she was like the best defender at the World Cup. And we talked about it on the men's side with Pulisic not being in the top 100, just some arbitrary stuff having huge impact here.
Yeah, Naomi Girma is eligible for this. Obviously, having left the league, she'd have to come back on a new contract. She is eligible for this. And I would say if you want to see who is, because if you go through and apply the criteria, you can get down to the actual number of players and identify the actual players who would be eligible for this. And according to the equalizersoccer.com, I think there are something like 99 players who are eligible for a high impact player contract as per the current. I'm sorry, 102. My mistake. I missed 3. 102 players are eligible for this. And if you go down the list, and I won't read every name, but players like Lucy Bronze, Corey Bethune of the Washington Spirit, Sam Coffey, Tierna Davidson, Claudia Dickey, Emily Fox, Naomi Girma, they're all on it. Rose Lavelle is on it. Katerina Macario is on it. Now, again, not all these players are in NWSL right now. Clearly they're not. But these are the players that are eligible. And the league says we will review these criteria to make sure that they are they are objective, and it's not nonsense, right? Nonsense that this is going to be. And if you are saying we're going to continually review our criteria, then how can anybody get a handle on what this rule actually is? If you're basically saying we will twist and adapt and mold these criteria from year to year, what's the point of having criteria? Why not just say, teams, go out and sign a player? If you've got somebody that you want to keep in the league or retain, they say they want to retain talent, then, let the teams make those decisions. The NWSLPA, which again, as you said, very much is against this right now, put out this statement after the league unilaterally announced the implementation of the high impact player rule. And it says that they oppose the league's decision to move forward without bargaining over the high impact player rule under federal labor law. Changes to compensation under the salary cap are a mandatory subject of bargaining, not a matter of unilateral discretion. I think what the league is probably going to say is, yeah, but this is not the salary budget. This is not the one this is outside, some loophole around how this is outside the salary budget, therefore is not subject the federal labor law and the bargaining that was done with the NWSLPA. They put this out 2 days before Christmas, right? They announced this 2 days before Christmas, and I guess they thought, here's a good way for us to get this out there and not have it sort of linger as a problem. I don't know, Rob. I think this is a bad look. I'm going to fall on the side of labor, and the reason that even if you think this is a beneficial thing for NWSL to be able to retain talent, it is such a tortured way to go about it, and it obviously locks out most of your players. In fact, all but 102 players in the world, it locks them out from salary, from money that these clubs in some cases are willing to spend. And that from a player perspective, from a labor perspective, is not good.
Yeah, this gives me a bad feeling on a number of levels, and definitely shooting themselves in the foot to a degree as well. You're talking about this news coming out just before Christmas. This is all in pursuit. Basically, this is all hurried and thrown together because star player Trinity Rodman's contract ends at the end of the year. In 1 week, their arguably most marketable player and most popular player could be gone. So they're trying to rush through some sort of a roughshod plan to keep her, but creating, I feel like a horrible set of situation where it makes everything so murky for these players that are able to be eligible. Yeah, like you said, limiting high earning potential. This extra $1 million that can go into a team is limited to 103 players rather than being able to trust teams to be able to spend $1 million in any way they see fit to build the rosters they see fit. And then it's another, this doesn't smack of good management. Like, wow, this new rule that they placed here has really empowered the member teams. It almost looks like it's shackling it. And in trying to undercut and ignoring the players' unions' objections. And I feel like it kind of might be going down like a dark turn here.
It's a built-in excuse. For any club who doesn't want to spend this extra money, it's a built-in excuse. There are only 102 players eligible for this, and we don't see a fit. Or none of those players want to play for us, so we're not offering that contract to anybody. And again, I will say, like, in reference to Major League Soccer, and it's really hard to argue that David Beckham and the subsequent signings under the designated player rule in Major League Soccer, again, a different application of spending outside the salary budget on everybody else. It's hard to argue that didn't have a big impact on the league, a positive impact on Major League Soccer. Like, over the long term, Major League Soccer greatly benefited from the designated player rule. But if you're talking about playing the best possible soccer, right? And the thing that NWSL, we've already talked about this around Trinity Rodman, the thing that they don't have to do is build up a reputation of being one of the best leagues in the world. All they can do by torturing these rules and trying to find, an excuse here or there, maybe one team wants to spend on Trinity Rodman, but lots of teams won't spend. All you're doing is saying, we actually don't care about being the best league in the world because we're not interested in putting the best teams on the field. We're only interested in giving one or two owners who might be ambitious an opportunity to spend on a specific set of players. And we're, again, building in a bunch of excuses so that the teams who don't can say, well, yeah, but here's why we aren't doing this. And again, it seems like they are just frittering away that status as one of the best leagues in the world as they, again, maybe undercut the relationship that they have with the NWSL even further than it's already been damaged.
I think another marker of the winds have changed as to what leagues are the top in the world, and the frittering away NWSL might be doing even further with this is the German Women's League has in the midst of a huge overhaul. The 14 women's clubs in the top division in Germany have decided to break away from the DFB, the official league as it is there. They're unhappy with the progress. They feel like they're being left behind. And who are they looking to as an example of the leaders in the world? It's not NWSL. They are taking their cues in their new league that they're forming themselves. They're trying to form it over the WSL. They're looking to England, not USA.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked about some of the problems that the NWSL has in terms of competing, at least in the hearts and minds of soccer fans, with the likes of the WSL. And again, that only means that you have to be more careful. It only means that you have to be, you have to give a lot more consideration to the moves you make if you're the NWSL, because you don't have that built-in advantage of, we've got Chelsea on the badges. We've got Arsenal on the badges. We've got Man United on the badges, right? There's something to that. And again, I'm all for independent clubs creating independent identities and those being outlets for the fandom that people have for women's sports and women's soccer in particular. But it is something that the NWSL has to think about. And yeah, I don't think it's really a surprise that a European league would look to another European league as their exemplar, Rob. But there is something to be said for you're fighting an uphill battle. You have some of the best players in the world. You are probably the most competitive league top to bottom in world football when it comes to the women's game. But what are you doing with that? Or are you just wasting it?
Yeah, let's hear what you guys think of that. Is NWSL shooting themselves in the foot with this high impact player rule? I mean, are they undercutting their status by, ignoring their players association? Are they just walking into another lawsuit and a labor dispute just because they are trying to select what players can make this larger amount of money, then rather than empowering their clubs to make their own decisions as far as how to distribute an extra $1 million in the salary cap? So yeah, Soccer Zombie saying this feels very MLS-y, and you're saying how the Beckham rule and the designated player served its purpose for Major League Soccer, but I almost feel like NWSL could fast forward past that, because you'd arguably say in the next 5-10 years the DP rule is more likely to go away than expand, right?
I mean, the way that it's applied now is obviously, and the league has, added the young DP and added the U22 initiative and done all these things to expand on the spending that clubs can do outside the salary budget. I mean, I think MLS's issue now is that the budget is too complicated from a rules perspective for most fans to follow, and then it makes it more difficult to sort of engage directly with what your team is doing. I mean, I think if you are the best league in the world, like, say, the NBA, you can get away with having some rules that require an engineering degree or an accounting degree or whatever it is you need to have to understand them. But if you're Major League Soccer, it's much easier and much better, perhaps, to simplify so that fans can go, oh, we need a left back. Well, here's how much money we have to spend on a left back, rather than, well, what is our GAM right now? And, oh, do we have how many different contracts do we have under this designation, right? And that's the thing. As you create designations under the salary budget, which the NWSL does not have to this point, you then again lock out certain players from that total pool of money. You're saying we're willing to spend X amount of dollars, but we're only willing to spend X amount of dollars on a certain subset of players, when the Players Association represents everybody from the player who's barely getting off the bench to the biggest star.
That's a good point there. And MK Ultra Chris feels like they're cutting the legs out from under themselves. And then Riverside Groves, good morning and Merry Christmas all. And this is the Christmas Eve special, and the back half of the show will be spotlighting our MK Ultras. But just one final thought on this, talking about MLS and American soccer trying to expand their engagement and way you can talk about roster building and that it's pretty tough on the average fan to discuss how this all works. But rewind 5-10 years ago, you were doing the United States of Soccer, but back in the day when you were talking almost exclusively about this stuff, the Major League Soccer didn't even release the terms of deals, or if there was a trade, you didn't even know what the numbers were. So how did you even engage back then? We've come a long way from then.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, again, Major League Soccer used to not tell anybody how much their players were making, because they didn't want players to have leverage when they went to negotiate with other MLS teams. Everything was about minimizing the competition between teams. And while MLS has opened up and gotten more confident in their ability to engage with the world market, and has found that, like, publicity wise, it makes sense for for people to kind of know what's going on here. Although again, MLSPA rather was always putting those numbers out, right? That's why we get a salary dump from the MLSPA, because the MLSPA was thinking, well, we need people to know what's going on here so we have more leverage, because the league themselves are not doing that, right? And again, you most of the time you are not told officially how much players are making in, say, European situations, but there's always, there is a story that comes out. There's reporting that is done, at least initially. Maybe you'll find out officially down the line. I think, again, Major League Soccer figured out that it's beneficial to be more open, even if they are still very, very controlling with a lot of the elements of their salary budget. We'll see if NWSL learns that same lesson.
Yeah, we are going to move on to our supporter spotlight in just a moment, but I want to shout out to our newest members this week, Red, Dave Townsend, and Emmett. Thank you so much for becoming MK Ultras. Shout out to our new subscribers. We've seen a little bit of a recent bump in subscriber numbers, so welcome on into the new subscribers. And then shout to Red, Dave Townsend, and Emmett for becoming our latest additions to the MK Ultras. And if you'd like to join, just hit that button, become an MK Ultra. You get access to bonus content, priority comments on the screen during these live shows, and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which we're going to feature in our next segment. We are going to do Get to Know Your MK Ultras here on our Christmas Eve edition of Morning Kickaround. Get to know the members, holiday members spotlight. Who are you and what is the most important thing to you is what we're going to break down here for our MK Ultras. They replied and we got lots of participation from our channel members. And we basically just wanted to put you guys in the spotlight. You've supported us here. We're over a year as a channel and pushing on strong. Wanted to shine a light on you as a little bit of a Christmas Eve present. And the first to break the ice, to introduce themselves and share what was most important to them was Zach.
Yeah, let's bring these up. So we've got the bios that we got from people in the Discord, Rob, which again is an incredible little community. And what I thought was what I thought was good to do here is to not only ask people who they are, where they're from, which we got the map. It's dotted with our ultras for the most part. Maybe to an ultra, if you're missing, let me know. But also like to find out what people care about, right? This is like if we were pollsters politically, we would ask you, what's the issue you care about most when you go to the ballot box, right? Is it your how much you spend on your groceries? Is it whether or not we engage in international conflict, whatever it is, right? Whatever your pet issue is. And so I did that with our ultras. I asked them. Now this is Zach. Zach is our guy who is out of North Carolina, founder of Mountains to Sea FC. Said he's been a magnet non-league soccer in North Carolina since 2019. He started a statewide league that had 12 clubs that went defunct. So he's engaged directly, not just in Mountain to Sea, but has history further deeper in North Carolina soccer. The most important issue to me is in the U.S. soccer landscape is the Wild West of the non-league amateur scene. With so many leagues competing for money, attention, clubs, and all that, it just becomes a nightmare to talk about and navigate since it's all so disorganized. And look, I will admit that was never really my focus as a professional broadcaster, as a writer. I was focused on MLS and the U.S. men's national team almost to a fault for about a decade and a half. But as we've done this show, and as I've kind of branched out in terms of what I do professionally, like I've worked with the UPSL on making videos about their seasons and their playoff tournaments and the people involved in owning clubs like Alessandro Del Piero. I've had a chance to interview Alessandro Del Piero twice because of the UPSL, because he owns a club in that league. But then you're like, okay, well, UPSL, how does that, what's the difference between that and NPSL? What's the difference between that and USL 2? Like these things, to Zach's point, they get real complicated, Rob.
Yeah, and I love it too. And in the same right, there's an endless amount of possibilities when you're talking about this, because there's so many different clubs from very different levels and histories. We have the summer league seasons. You have historic ethnic teams that have been around for 50, 80 plus years, battling against teams that started earlier in that summer. And that juxtaposition can be fascinating. And shout out as we get going, we got a brand new member, CD Gobjects, in the mix. Welcome aboard.
CD Gobjects. Oh my God. All right, let's move on. Maybe we'll get a bio from CD Gobjects at some point in the near future. Number 2 is our man, Jason Hoover, out of, a fan of the Columbus Crew. He's from Dayton, Ohio. He's a Tottenham Hotspur fan. We won't hold that against him. Social media for Gem City Massive, a Dayton area supporters group for the Crew. Soccer fan since 94. Still remember watching USA Brazil 4th of July round of 16. We could have won that game. That's the game where Leonardo cracked open Tab Ramos's skull. That's the only thing that's always where my brain goes, because Tab would have been, never mind. Tab was great. Most important issue in American soccer to me is increasing cost of being a fan. Both MLS and U.S. soccer continue to price out common fans in favor of corporate ones, and I think that's to the detriment of American soccer. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that other than I understand you, Jason, right? We spend a lot of time talking about World Cup tickets, and it's obviously not just World Cup tickets, but this is another thing. And I'm not going to tell Jason to stop being a Columbus Crew fan or stop making trips to Columbus for games or whatever. But this is why people are now are migrating and are moving away maybe from professional big-time soccer in America to some lower league options, Rob, whether that's professional or amateur.
I know I'm in my own kind of summer league bubble, but I really do hope that the teams and the leagues that are playing through the summer really lean into being the affordable option as Major League Soccer gets more expensive, and obviously the World Cup is becoming a financial behemoth as far as anyone trying to access the tournament.
Sorry, you stopped me so many times, and I don't want to make it a thing every single time, but I appreciate you, Rob. Let's move on. This is Tom. He is Soccer Zombie. He's got a YouTube channel. Go support him. Also one of the hosts of the new Red Smoke Rising podcast. Director of Communications for Gateway Football Group in St. Louis. Have a team name, but we're waiting to reveal it on, that is March 14th. Longtime Liverpool supporter, St. Louis City supporter. Married to a soccer crazy family, and like Jason got hooked in 94. For me, the most important issue is accessibility. So this comes back to what Jason was talking about, I think. The World Cup and MLS are pricing families out of the game and ruining the chance for that generational support of the sport through monopolization and greed. It's important clubs start in cities around this spread out country of ours. It still needs to be accessible for families and fans alike. Yeah, this is that issue of, do we need alternatives? Is there a chance that MLS pulls back, that we don't see the prices go higher and higher and higher and price out everybody? I don't know. Quick interruption here.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Big T.
Can you say Merry Christmas to everybody real quick?
Merry Christmas.
Okay, you enjoying Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep doing the show. I'll see you later. Okay. ¿Qué pasó? Oh, wow. A sticker. That's great. No, not a sticker, a pin. Oh, he's got a pin. I'm sorry. He wanted to show me his pin. So thank you. That's Tiago. He's my 4-year-old, about to be 5. He's getting into soccer. We'll see. All right. Thank you to Soccer Zombie Tom Franklin for being an ultra. I'm trying to pull this back, Rob. You want to get us back on track?
Yeah, sure. Let's move on to Mr. Todd Brooks. He lives in Council Bluffs, Iowa, right next to Omaha, Nebraska. 55-year-old and proud Navy veteran. Fell in love with soccer when the United States hosted World Cup 94, was watching games on the staticky hotel TV while in Des Moines for a Metallica concert. We got MLS, and I was watching those. Then cable TV started showing Euro games, and I was hooked. Then internet happened, and now I'm streaming, watching lots of soccer. Favorite team is Liverpool. Got a lot of good taste in the group, and no other reason. It's such a blue-collar shipbuilding town, and I pretty much watch any game with American players involved. Biggest issue with U.S. soccer is the American public knows our top flight isn't top flight at all. If you want to watch the best, MLS is not it. How do they compete with that? Baseball, football, hockey, and others.
Yeah. I that's an interesting issue to kind of make your number one issue. I definitely think in terms of how we expand our American soccer culture, it can be an issue. Now, I've also come to sort of a universal theory of soccer after years of being an American soccer guy, Rob, and I still am. I'm still at heart, first and foremost, a guy who cares about the American game. But you kind of have to think about this as a rising tide lifts all boats. We're all kind of in this together. And even if you are different, if you care about MLS, or let's say you care about lower leagues in America, or you are an Oakland County SC kind of guy, like if you're into amateurs, and you first of all, Rob is a Liverpool fan also, right? So you can be all those things at one time. You can, of course.
That's one of the beautiful things about this game, like there's layers. There's the international layer, the international club layer, the domestic layer, and your local layer. I mean, you can be fans of all those different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody's going to say that you're wrong for doing that. I mean, I wouldn't. Maybe some people would say that you're wrong. And I think this is kind of what Todd's saying. Is that people go, "Oh, you're an MLS fan? Ew. Oh, you don't watch the Premier. You don't get the Premier League so much better." And that snobbish thing, which I don't use the word Euro snob as much as I used to, but that snobbish thing is a bit of an issue in American soccer. I just think, we kind of have to find ways to bridge gaps between people who care more about European football, people who care about American soccer, people who care about, say, Liga MX, which we know is the most watched league in America. The communities, like we are all sort of orbiting in various ways around the game and maybe not coinciding, maybe not connecting. So you've got the people who go out to the pub on Saturday morning or watch the Premier League Saturday morning. There are, people probably very close to where you live in a metropolitan area. Now, Rob was hanging out with Russians, but there are like multiple soccer communities that play on the middle school fields behind my house. There is a Latino community that I think is mostly Bolivian and South American, and then there's an East African community that has their own games. And those, not only do I have struggled to connect with either or both, they don't connect with each other. They're playing the same game. Right now, they're immigrants, and that obviously makes it so that you collect with people who come from your same community. But that's a thing in American soccer, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing on anybody's part, but it is an issue that we're all kind of moving in the same direction, but we're in very different lanes most of the time.
Yeah, MLS is in a bit of an impossible position in that way. Coming into the game 150 years or 130 years later than everyone else, trying to be the top dog. They're the top flight in the United States, but attaining that top level in the world is hard. And that's hard for the American public because for the other sports, they are seeing the top competition in the world. So it takes a little bit of a eye lens adjustment. Major League Soccer is kind of stuck in the middle because I think that you can adjust your eye. If you're supporting a team at the local level, you can have that connection to the team because that is my town represented. And so maybe it's not perfect top of the world soccer, but you can root for it because your connection to it personally. And then you can watch overseas because those are the globe's best. So Major League Soccer is kind of stuck in a tough place. If you don't have a team in your town, it's hard to root for a Major League Soccer team because it's not necessarily the global best, but it's also not like your hometown team if you're not one of the 30 teams that has a team.
And that thing about the psychology of fandom and how it works and why you connect with what you connect with, that's obviously a mystery in a lot of cases, but sometimes it's about passing this down, right? I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Have I ever lived in Denver? No, I visited as a kid, but I'm a Broncos fan because my grandfather was a Broncos fan and taught me to be a Broncos fan. And then, I couldn't get away from it. And so I fell in love with that team and I'm never going to let them go, even if I never live in Denver. Right. And those things are only just sort of forming around American soccer and specifically around MLS, which goes back to 96. Right. Some of these teams do have history deeper than that. And you can say, well, the Sounders have been around since the 70s and things like that. But generally speaking, we're talking about teams that are 30 years old or much, much less in a lot of cases. And so we're not in a generational mode yet, which is going to carry this game forward in a lot of ways that we take for granted when it comes to Europe. And even if you are only a Arsenal fan or a Liverpool fan because you chose them, not because they were passed down to you, you are jumping on the shoulders of that history that was passed down, that is multi-generational, right? That can go back and you can, I'm an Arsenal fan. I love Fever Pitch, right? Well, Fever Pitch comes out of a love for Arsenal that goes way, way deeper, right? So anyway, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we referenced my Liverpool fandom. I'm a third generation Liverpool fandom, and my grandfather broke away from an Everton family, and so that was passed down to me. I think I was shown Liverpool highlights when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and that was it for me. But as soon as I had a local team in my neighborhood, like that adopted a whole new region of my fandom in my heart. There's a whole different place for the local team there. Thank you, Todd. Good topic there. Moving on, Edward Lewis lives in Kansas City. Season ticket holder for SKC. Love going to the games, but parking is a nightmare downtown. I got into MLS while living in Columbus back in 2010, and the Crew will always be his number one. And Edward's biggest issue with MLS having too many teams in the one league. I'm not saying Pro Rel is the solution, but I do say that. I just think having unbalanced number of games against teams or not even playing some of the teams is not the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Major League Soccer's size fits the country we live in. If you think of it as, as a soccer version of the NFL, and I'm not talking about approach corporate. I'm just saying in terms of what it's supposed to be in a country that doesn't go deep and historical with its club organization. And I always say that one of my main themes about American soccer is that we're a league first country and not a club first country, because in order to get clubs off the ground, you have to have an organizing body and gather a bunch of people with money to put that into the game. And then you say, well, you put a team there and you put a team there. And, oh, Lamar Hunt, you're connected to Kansas City. You get a team over there. And that has created a situation where there is just this idea that we can keep growing and we can be NFL-like with the size of our league. But that does not connect with the history of the sport in a lot of other places where 20 teams is the max, because you want to play everybody home and away, and the balanced schedule is the manner in which you determine your champion. That's probably not going to happen in this country. It's just not.
All right, we're going to move to our next member. Thank you so much, Edward, for participating here. We got Tulsa Mario, who I'll say, I'm not sure if I messaged him, but when we featured Tulsa Mario following that USL Championship Western Conference success that they had, we had commenters saying that Tulsa Mario's interview was their favorite segment of the show so far.
Nice.
So shout out, Mario, that people appreciated your appearance on the program. So to read his bio here, my name is Mariano Soler, the 9th. Wow. But everyone calls me Mario. I was born in Puerto Rico. My family and I moved to East Boston, Massachusetts when I was a year and a half, learned to love soccer and sports in Boston, started being a fan of Chelsea in 95, then started following New England Revs in 96. About 17 years ago, I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. After meeting a few fellow Chelsea fans, I created and led the Tulsa Blues, official supporters group for Chelsea FC. 2 years later, Tulsa Roughnecks was announced, and I helped create and start the first supporters group for the club. Mario's biggest issue with American soccer is the disconnect in this so-called pyramid system. I would love it if the USSF would manage this federation like it's supposed to handle everywhere else in the world. Thank you, Mario.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Mario for being a Puerto Rican soccer fan. It's still fairly, I don't think it's rare. And as I travel the island during the holiday season, I do see a not insignificant number of soccer jerseys. Lots of Inter Miami stuff, as you can imagine, Rob. Lionel Messi's got power, and pink is a color people like to show out with. I did see an LAFC jersey in the mountains in Hajuya. I think I mentioned Hajuya on the show. Saw an LAFC shirt there. Interesting stuff. So Puerto Rico's growing as a soccer place, just like America is, I think. Still got other sports ahead of soccer here. But yeah, that issue with the disconnect in the pyramid. I mean, I think that's going to be an eternal frustration for us. And without getting too deep into it, you have to remember that the issue is, in order for that to happen, U.S. soccer would have to really be powerful in a way that a lot of soccer fans really don't want them to be. So you would have to have U.S. soccer saying, okay, look, we're the organizers of this game in this country, and we're saying there's a pyramid and there's pro rel, and this is the way it's going to be. And the problem with that is that the power that U.S. soccer has over the game is tenuous. It's based on the Ted Stevens Act. It's based on this idea that Olympic sports should be organized by accredited bodies, right? So U.S. soccer is the accredited body to run soccer, which, again, falls under this act, even though really in terms of Olympic sports, is it quite the same as, say, gymnastics or figure skating or anything like that? Probably not. Again, the issue is that the history of the game here doesn't allow for U.S. soccer to be that powerful. And even if U.S. soccer did put their foot down, and in some cases they have stepped in it by trying or doing things that people see as anti-competitive, and the laws work against them because they can be taken to court and challenged over anything they do that anybody else, and again, independent leagues, league first country, not club first country, anybody can say, you are restricting my business, my league, from being competitive in this marketplace. It's exactly what Rocco Camiso did when the NASL was jumping into lawsuits with U.S. Soccer. It's all about that. So I just think that this is unfortunate. There can be other ways to do it, but American soccer is going to have to find a way to connect its pyramid in ways that are not the same as everybody else, because it just can't happen.
We have a few more to go, so more MK Ultras to spotlight. I'm going to move on to Matthew. He's 48 from Southampton, and or he's from Exmouth, UK, and Southampton is his English team.
Exmouth. That doesn't say Exmouth, Rob. That says Exmouth. Oh man, pronunciation in England, such a thing. Just kidding. Go ahead.
That aside, Southampton is Matthew's English team. He went there for university just as he was getting into soccer. Being that Devon is not exactly a hotbed of the game, it is funny that England is such an intense soccer place, but there are non-soccer regions in the country.
Yeah, isn't one of there's a team that is fairly consistently in the Premier League, a yo-yo club, and everybody's like, oh, that's a rugby town. Like, that's not even really a soccer town. That's a rugby town. I can't remember which one it is. Somebody's going to tell me which club that is. Go ahead.
Come up, Bristol.
I think it might be Hull. Isn't Hull more of a rugby town than a soccer town?
Yeah, and back when Hull was in the Premier League, you could see all the rugby lines on it, which thought was a funny parallel with American soccer lines, American football lines being on soccer fields, and Luke's putting out leads. And then, just generally the south coast of England. Recently there is more prominence with the Brightons and the Bournemouths, the south, and especially the southeast and west corners. Not hotbeds for soccer. But moving on, Matthew moved to the U.S. to Iowa in 2004 for grad school, back when not much soccer was around or on TV. Followed the team back home until I moved close enough to have a team, and here I am now, Chattanooga Red Wolves, because I want to be the bad guy, and they are close to my house. And the most important thing to Matthew is that the stands get enough people in them to financially sustain the teams and produce a great atmosphere to be a part of it. But without that turn, when it gets popular, where the original supporters who carried it get shafted by the money men cashing in, only to watch it atrophy and have to try all over again.
Wow, have a bigger issue, Matthew. Like, have a bigger thing to try to figure out how to avoid that natural sort of. I mean, I say natural. I just mean it's historically it's a thing that happens, right? Something gets popular and the original adopters kind of get pushed out. I mean, this is a major issue. We're not going to dive into the accounting again here, Rob. Neither one of us are accountants, as far as I'm aware.
For sure.
But that thing about finding a price point that allows people to have access to your game, because it's not a charity, right? Professional clubs, they're not being run as charities. They're being run as businesses. Now, that doesn't mean they have to rake in profit, right? If you're a soccer club owner in America and you're doing it for the right reasons, you should want to have your number be zero at the end of every year, right? We are exactly zero. We didn't make any money, but we didn't lose any money. That's not the way of it now. Clubs lose money, particularly when they start up, for a long time. Right? We've talked about this with several people, including Sam Morton recently, which is you basically know you're going to be hemorrhaging money and spending millions for the first couple of years as a club. So then how do you get that back and make sure you can make it long lasting? Because nobody wants to lose millions of dollars for a long time. MLS owners maybe have eaten that a little bit, which is, again, why it's hard to kind of get a sense of how much credit you give to the original MLS owners when some people would say they've restricted the game's growth with some of the ways they've gone about it. But at the lower league level, especially, we want to charge this amount of money to get this number of people in the building so that we can have enough money to continue. If you raise the prices because you need more money, but fewer people come, and now the atmosphere suffers, are you actually doing your business any good? But you have to think beyond the next quarter, the next year, the next bottom line number.
There's another point that Matthew brings up here, being a Chattanooga Red Wolf fan because he wants to be the bad guy. We don't have a lot of that in American soccer. How many teams and people are rooting for the bad guy on this side?
We need more people to want to be the bad guy, a little, in a fun way, right? Inter Miami's taking on that villain role in Major League Soccer, and I think there are some fans of Inter Miami who are just saying, whatever, you don't like us, screw you, and that's part of soccer culture, right? nobody likes us and we don't care, like that kind of thing. There's a lot of that in English football.
We need a Millwall. Who's the Millwall of American soccer?
Do we though? Do we need a Millwall? I don't think we need a Millwall. We need somebody that's not quite Millwall exactly, but somewhere in that range, I guess.
Rough around the edges at the very least, right?
There you go. We do need that. That's character, right? And that's something that I think up till the last maybe decade has been tough to see whether MLS teams can sort of take on the character of the communities that they inhabit. And, obviously America has changed. Like if there was, you've got teams in the Rust Belt, you've got teams in certain parts of the South, you got teams in California, teams, again, in places with a lot of Latin influence. Those clubs should reflect the culture of the place that they inhabit.
Moving on to Ken. Ken is a semi-retired journalist and educator from Navarre, Florida, about halfway between Pensacola and Destin in the Panhandle. Raised in Mississippi, Oklahoma, Missouri, served proudly but briefly in the Air Force. There's a connection to you there, Jason. An earned degree in history from Pittsburgh State University in Kansas. I became interested in soccer in the 70s with the original NASL, tried to tune into local telecasts of the Tulsa Roughnecks without much success, so I settled for the few lines I could find in the newspapers. Like most of the Ultra who have posted, I really got into soccer with World Cup 94. Also a Liverpool supporter. I like Dortmund and Barcelona. I'm a minority owner of 3 lower league clubs and a freelance writer for a couple of soccer fan sites. Pensacola FC is my closest local club, fielding men's and women's in the League for Clubs and WPSL, respectively. And Ken's biggest issue facing soccer right now is the lack of clear direction. He'd like the federation to be more assertive and coordinate all areas of soccer development, or somebody to make it all make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ken, for being an Ultra. Let's say that first to everybody who is part of this and has responded. My dad's down in Pensacola or near Pensacola. I don't think he's a Pensacola FC guy. Maybe you can get him. Maybe you recruit him. I'll hire you to recruit him to be a soccer guy, Ken. No, just kidding. That lack of clear direction, development. I mean, again, you're talking about people are extremely protective of their little corner of American soccer in a lot of places. And again, I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, but you got state associations that have been run by the same people for decades, right? This is just kind of what happens at the organizational level for things like soccer in America, which doesn't have a lot of people clamoring to be involved. So people can kind of carve out their little kingdom. And then once they're in place and once they've curried enough support from within their federation, with their state association, then it's really hard to knock them off. And they do not want to do what the federation says all the time. They do not want to change the way they have done things for a long time. So again, I'm not in that political world deep enough to really have a comment on it. I just know that that's part of the issue.
Thank you, Ken. Moving on, John Hunt, middle school social studies teacher and boys soccer coach in South Central Kentucky, president of the Railbirds SG for Lexington, massive fan of soccer all over the world at all the different levels, mainly fan culture. Most important issue to John in American soccer is getting casual fans of the sport to go out and support their local team over supporting a team overseas. Too often I run into people that are fans and want to support the sport to grow, but they don't go out and support their local team.
What's the right approach, John? Should we shame them? Should we show up at their houses and knock on their doors and say, why aren't you going out and supporting the local club? Or what is the deal? Like,
give them a firm jostling.
I think some of this is awareness. Let me shout out a guy that I haven't talked to in a while, Dan Wiersma, who was, I think, based in San Antonio back in the day. I might have to check on where Dan was. Maybe Austin. Can't remember. Dan was this guy. He was a teacher. He was just a presence in American soccer social media. And his thing was free beer, right? I'll buy you come out to a game with me and I'll buy you a beer. Or let's go watch a game and I'll buy you a beer. And it was the free beer movement. He got scarves made and he had a website, and the whole thing was come with me or watch a game. You think you won't like it. And obviously I think he was trying to get non-soccer fans into the game. John's talking about a little bit of a different lift, which is casual fans, soccer fans who maybe already like the game, but don't think that their local team is worth the effort. And man, look, I think we just have to build and build and build. Like, we just have to tell people this is awesome. you think that you like, maybe you don't see 60,000 people in the stadium, so you don't think it's worth it. But let me tell you, it's actually a much more rewarding experience in some ways. Not that going out and seeing a game with 60,000 people isn't fun, but going out and seeing a game with 3,000 people can be a different kind of rewarding experience.
Next up, it looks like you skipped over him, but before we go by, Luke Z was another.
Where did I skip him? No, I don't. I saw Luke say, "Do my bio for me," Rob. Did you?
Yeah, because I wanted to bounce off of that because the buy a beer movement from the last one segues into this. Luke Z, one, I'll put his tag here. He very big supporter of the show, and he asked to do the bio for him. So he is a great ambassador for sports in general, but for the game, he is almost to a fault, always trying to bring folks out to games at the local games and even bring people from Michigan. He drags them down to go to Columbus Crew games as well. So an ambassador for the sport and great supporter of this show. And he mentions his biggest issue in the United States is youth soccer. It's culture. He wants it. He'd rather see the culture, the game in U.S. youth soccer. He'd rather it be culture and talent over profit and politics. So appreciate the contribution there. And that is a big issue in American soccer, no doubt. Who we got next?
Well, first of all, let me tell people, if you're watching this and you're not already an Ultra, click that button that looks like a dollar and become an Ultra, support the show. I mean, that's what we need to do. And that's why we're highlighting all the people who have already jumped on to become Ultras, because that support is going to keep us going into 2026. And while we have some things kind of cooking, nothing is ready to come out of the oven, and we got to keep going with your support. So let's do that. Shout out to Luke. All right, let's go to Dave Cotton. American Groundhopper is his sobriquet. Season ticket member, Sacramento Republic. Shout out to my hometown. Born and raised a whole 2 months. He's also a West Ham supporter. Bucket list goals to visit all the U.S. and Canadian professional grounds. 14 in MLS, 14 in the USL Championship, 6 Canadian Premier League grounds. Pretty good. 8 USL 1, 2 NISA matches. Been to 3 NWSL. This is a man who just likes to go out and see games. He
is a ground hopper indeed.
He is a ground hopper. In fact, there's no other thing here, no issue, just I want to see grounds. So shout out to Dave. That is a great thing to do. Simply Dope. This man is George out of South Carolina, 52, Rock Hill, South Carolina. Talks about his fandom. Chelsea, Charleston, Charlotte, Hackney Wick FC, USA, Ghana, and Denmark. Works in sports tech. Biggest issue is helping the U.S. move to an open system because of the passion. I've written a few articles for websites and frequently exchange ideas with others online. George is one of those who has given us his manifesto, and at some point we'll dive back into the manifesto. Those should be bonus shows that we'll do in the near future, Rob, is diving into some of these manifestos and taking a harder look at them. But shout out to George.
Yeah, next up, we have Matthew Brothers from Covington, Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati.
You skipped one. Rob, you skipped one. That's okay. Go to Matthew. You already mentioned him.
All right. And his biggest issue with American soccer is trying to introduce others to the sport that I fall in love with and to proselytize for Major League Soccer.
You can say proselytize. You could say that word, but you can't say. Never mind. I'll get into it.
As we go through this show, even from when we started a year ago, the eyesight is going away. So so some of the pronunciations is me guessing incorrectly. But proselytize for Major League Soccer.
Proselytize. Okay. Matthew wrote a longer narrative of his soccer journey. Hearts of Pine. He says he hopes to see Hearts of Pine this season. He's got his wife is part of his journey, so that's why he says we here. I've written a much longer narrative that I asked for access. He gave me access a little while ago. I haven't been able to read it yet. So he says it starts with Ted Lasso. So we'll check in on Matthew. This is the one we skipped. This is Grumpy Huey, Grumpy Gen X, Marine Corps veteran. I think we've got a couple of veterans, by the way. Shout out. Thank you for your service to all of our vets. New Englander in Jersey. Let's see, man, there's a lot here. USSF is failing, in my opinion, overall. They may have thoughts on pro leagues in those divisions, but failed everything below those. Wish there was over 1,000 USL 1 league clubs. An organization that amateur, semi-pro, non-league clubs around the country could gather under one organization that will be organized. So again, that thing of like, you're going to have to, if you're going to create an organization to get all those clubs under one umbrella, you're going to have to sell those clubs because they're going to have options because everybody thinks they have a better mousetrap. Like just everybody does. unfortunately. Let's see. I'd rather spend my money locally in 5 to 10K old soccer venues than a high school football stadium. Getting tired of travel, 1 hour to pay the price of a ticket, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of this. Again, like this is access for our man Grumpy when it comes to soccer in America. We did Matthew. Here's Wes. He gave us bullet points. Rob, you want to give us some bullet points from Wes?
All right, Wes Henderson, excuse me, based in Florida now, but from Albuquerque and Houston, 15 plus years supporting, helped launch Albuquerque Soul in the PDL, vice president of the Texan Army. Wow. Served on the American Outlaws board, a member of the Independent Supporters Council. Wow. Co-founder of the University of New Mexico Howl Raisers, and worked with ESPN and the New Mexico Bowl since 2010. And why soccer matters to me, biggest issue, soccer still isn't taken seriously by people who've never experienced it. And he's a longtime believer in lowering barriers and inviting new fans in. And he's participated in the early free beer movement, using beer to get people access, atmosphere, and into the door. And once people experience the supporters' passion and community, the stereotypes disappear. And growing the game means welcoming people in and letting soccer speak for itself.
Yeah, that's 2 mentions of the free beer movement. So again, shout out to Dan Wiersma getting some love on this show. I love that. And then finally, and this is the last one we got before the show started. So if you've given us your bio in the Discord, my apologies. We'll get to you shortly. And then if you haven't done it or you're not an ultra, you know what to do. Become a member of the channel. That gets you access to the Discord where you can put up your bio and we can talk about your issue, because that's, again, this is supposed to be responsive. We want to know what you guys care about. And not only is this, we're airing your grievances or you're sharing your issue. It is time for airing your grievances, right? It is Festivus here around Morning Kickaround. It means that we can also focus what we talk about, right? And we can be responsive to that. So this is Ryan, often called Brian, he says. Don't know why that is. Army vet, another vet. Hoosier native living in Fort Wayne, found his community in the local soccer scene during the 2014 World Cup. Love to talk about that and help amplify all the soccer shenanigans happening in Fort Wayne. He mentions Fort Wayne FC. I believe he's, again, involved in the fandom and all the things that are happening around Fort Wayne FC. Building a soccer-specific stadium set to open this spring. We're very excited about that. Would love for us, you and me, Rob, to join him for a match. He says, outside of my area, I'm a fan of Minnesota Aurora, which we haven't talked about yet. We should talk about Minnesota Aurora. Wes Bernine got mentioned on this show because of his social media post on the Colorado thing, but Wes Bernine is a founder and owner and one of the key figures of Minnesota Aurora. I know he's been a guest on our show.
Yep.
What was he talking about?
It was the calendar change and the Minnesotans' reaction to how cold they might be getting. And we talked a little bit about his bar as well.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the bar there in St. Paul. The most important issue for me is making the game financially accessible for players, parents, and fans. That's the thing, right? That's the thing. And again, I think we can do a lot of angry throwing of bombs at the big time soccer people in this country, that being U.S. soccer when it comes to, say, the national teams or certainly MLS. And look at them. There may be some places or even around the USL where people don't love what their ownership is doing around ticket prices and accessibility. But the thing we should be doing, even as we are criticizing those people for what they're doing to keep their version of the game less accessible or make it less accessible, is to build a new system, to build a better, more accessible group of clubs that people can engage with. And it seems as though Fort Wayne is scratching that particular itch for Ryan, which is good.
Yeah, I'm excited to come watch a game with Ryan and check out that new stadium in Fort Wayne. We did get another reply on the YouTube channel itself in the community post. We have a post from Fairman58. He's a newbie to the sport of soccer, got fed up with sports in America has become, and wanted something new following COVID to get out and be around people. Detroit City FC provides that for me, along with what they do in the community, how the fan base makes me feel welcomed. He's learning about a new game, and it's awesome to him, and it's something that myself and his autistic son can enjoy together. DCFC till I die, says Fairman58.
Shout out to Wes. who has gifted 5 memberships. That is incredible. I see they've already been claimed. Clyde, Cyclone, Aaron, BLT Gamers, Hugh are all now ultras thanks to West's gift. That is a wonderful Christmas gift that West has handed out, and we very much appreciate that. That's great. I will put the Discord link, the working Discord link, on the YouTube channel in a post for the ultras, so you have access. Click the link, get into Discord. Now, look, I will say this also, man, Tulsa Mario also being very, very Christmassy here. Go ahead and put that back up. Tulsa Mario, man, muchas gracias. That's incredible. 5 more memberships. So if you are in here and you grab one of those, we'll get the Discord link and all of you guys can jump in. Now, obviously, I would love you guys to also stay members after your initial period as an ultra is over, because these are gift memberships. Hopefully we'll convert you. If you're somebody who doesn't know Discord, don't worry. It's just a place for chat. Like, it's just literally a website or an app, and you can put it on your phone. You know, it's how to compare it to something, right? It's just another way to communicate.
Yeah, it's a chat room essentially, and it's just for just us that are involved here in the channel members. So it's a a contained chat room, so you can express your feelings and comments and share news within this community.
We've got channels for all different kinds of things. Like, there are channels where people are talking about pretty much all the issues that came up today, right, on the show. Like, there are channels for travel, channels for accessibility. Look, this show doesn't talk about the Premier League all that often. Rob's really upset about Liverpool's season. That's why it doesn't. No, I'm just kidding. We don't talk about the Premier League because it's not the focus of the show. But there is a channel for people to talk about the Premier League. So if you are just a soccer fan, I care about my local team, or I'm into American soccer, but I also have a team, and I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm a Liverpool fan, whatever. There is a place for you to commiserate with us on those topics. And a lot of you probably know, because I mention it on a regular basis, I do a radio show, a national radio show on SiriusXM FC with Eric Winalda. And that show, while we talk about American soccer on some level regularly, we are a lot focused on Europe. So I'm in there. I'm ready to talk about what's going on with Arsenal. They win about as ugly as anybody can win, but they keep doing it. Own goals are saving Arsenal right now, which is something fascinating. But yeah, man, that community has turned into something great. I think Luke had a comment just a little while ago. There it is. Love what this community is being built into. All corners of the country, all soccer backgrounds, all different journeys, but one common passion. There's no judgment here, right? Again, newbies, if you can't understand the offside rule, we got space for you, right? We'll help you with that. But if you've also been in this game for 40 years, we got space for you. Like, we're ready for that to be part of our community. So I'm very excited about that.
From newbies to manifesto riders, all welcome in the Morning Kickaround Discord server.
It takes all kinds, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, big shout. What a great way to end it with the gifts. Mario, Wes, wonderful. It's been a great episode. Great to dip in and spotlight the MK Ultras, and then to have gifts be given at the end of it on top of it is a great way to round out the show. Thank you all to your wonderful comments. Thank you all for your support, and thank you for participating in this Christmas Eve special.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, very much. If you do celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful one. Just thank you so much for your support, and we'll hopefully see you very soon.
All right. Until next time, everybody, there's a lot to take in. And then until next time, everybody, enjoy your soccer.